Hi, everyone. I wanted to say welcome to Monday and Tuesday. Um, today we are going to finish integer operations, but I wanted to give you a quick reminder that you should have been working on your two assignments you have been given, which are ZAV for fraction decimal percent equivalency. And then the other one was absolute value and opposites, which was KGR. I'm trying to remember. You're going to get another one today at the very end of this video for you to practice. So remember, one of the ways that you can practice with IXL is pull up a whiteboard and be working on the whiteboard. Another way is to actually get a piece of paper and do it on pencil and paper. Whatever helps you to be the most successful that you can. Okay, make sure that you've also answered your discussion question, and you should see that in today's lesson. So let's get started. So if you notice, it says integer operations continued because we started on Friday. If you remember, we talked about adding integers with the same sign and different sign. I sang you my beautiful song, which is same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the bigger number, then you'll be exact. So hopefully you remember and it has stuck in your head all day long. Then we did some practice problems and I showed you how to use scoreboard method because I'm super competitive. Then I did show you that there is some more practice, and there's a video going through all of this practice. It's about 7 minutes, but it goes through all 8 of these problems, which is something that I think is really important. So if you want to pause this video and go watch it, you should do that. Next, we come to the hardest part of integer operations, which is subtracting integers. The reason why is because it's not something really clear cut. It is very much two different problems in one. So with subtracting integers, we have to see it as adding the opposite, So if I were to say add the opposite, what I'm talking about is if I had something like 5 minus a negative 3. If I'm adding the opposite, what I'm doing right then is I am changing the problem to an addition problem. So I am adding, I'm turning this to an adding problem. So now it's adding, but it says add the opposite. So that means I need to look what the opposite of negative 3 is, which hopefully you remember that it's positive 3. And so now I have a new problem and it says follow the rules for addition problems. So are my integers the same sign? Well, yes, they're both positive. So then I would take this and I'd say add the numbers, keep the sign. So 5 plus 3 gets me 8. Let's do another one. So if I had something like negative 7 minus, I don't know, let's say minus, 4. Yeah, let's go with 4. Minus 4? Yeah, that works. Negative 7 minus 4. So if I have negative 7 minus 4, then I'm going to say negative 7. I'm going to add the opposite. So this becomes adding. And the opposite of a positive 4 is a negative 4. So now I have a negative 7 plus a negative 4. If you notice, that's still the same sign. So we add the numbers. So 7 plus 4 is 11. And we keep the sign. They're both negative, so this is going to be a negative. Now, when this gets a little tricky is when I have something like 8 minus 12. 8 minus 12. So some of you might be thinking, oh, that's 4. Well, it's saying I have $8 and somebody wants to take 12 from me. I don't have enough money for that. So 8 minus 12, we would change it to be an addition problem. Okay, so stick with me on this. This is where it's going to get a little weird. I'm going to change this to be an addition problem. The opposite of 12 is a negative 12. Now here's where we have to go down this path here. We have different signs, so we have to find the difference. So if you remember when I told you about scoreboard, the positives versus the negatives, the positives scored 8 points here. and the negative scored 12. So who won this game? Well, the negatives did. They have more points. How many points did they win by? Well, finding the difference means to subtract. So 12 minus 8 would be 4. So I still owe somebody $4 is what that stands for. Now, once again, there are some more example problems, the cute little video that goes right with it, and it's pictures and it shows number lines. And it's really important. If you're in class, we're going to watch these because it's very, very important that you guys see them. So then there's some practice problems here. So all of these, the reason why they are super important is they have to be changed by adding the opposite. Adding the opposite. So I want you to pause this and I want you to go ahead and do it on your own. So once you come back, I wanted to show you. So if you notice the changes that I make to the problem, I put in red. So this was a subtraction problem. So I made it an addition problem by adding the opposite. The opposite of 4 is a negative 4. And a negative 3 plus a negative 4 is a negative 7. Because same sign, add and keep. Then down here, we had 7 minus a negative 1. So we change it to addition. And then the opposite of negative 1 is a positive 1. So we're changing this right here. Okay, so now we just have 7 plus 1, which you guys are rock stars and you know is 8. Then over here we have negative 8 minus a negative 6. So once again, we're going to keep negative 8. We have to change this to addition. And then the opposite of negative 6 is a positive 6. So now this is where it gets a little tricky. I have negative 8, so the negative scored 8 points. The positive scored 6 points. So the question is my answer going to be positive or negative? And the answer is negative because there are more negatives. Well, how many more negatives are there? 2. So my answer is negative 2. And this last one is kind of like the one we did on the other page, which is 2 minus 5. 2 plus a negative 5. So we change it to addition and we turn the opposite of positive 5 as negative 5, which means that the positive scored 2 points, the negative scored 5 points. So which one are there more of? There's more negatives here, right? And then the question is how many more negatives? So 5 minus 2 is 3. So my answer is negative 3. Now I told you on Friday that multiplying and dividing is way easier. So the rules for multiplying and dividing are actually the same rules, which is kind of nice. And when I say that it's easy, this is what I mean. If you notice, it says a positive times a positive is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. It's actually giving you the rules right here. Now, some of my fellow math friends like to do something called Mad Cat. Go with me. I know you think that this probably doesn't look like a cat, but I mean, it's a funny looking cat. But so if you notice, there are like 2 negatives for the eyes because they're mad, and then a positive for the little button nose. So the reason why we call it Mad Cat is because it's a reminder that this is multiplying and dividing. So this is only for multiplying and dividing. It's just like a little reminder. So you draw your little Mad Cat, and the way this works is that you would cover up the 2 signs that you're working with, and the third sign that's not covered would actually be the thing that's telling you what the answer is. So let me give you an example here. 5 times negative 6. Well, that's a positive 5, so you would cover up the positive 5. In a negative 6, so you'd cover up the negative. So if you do that and you're covering these up, then the only thing that's left over is this negative here. So you know your answer has to be negative. And then you would just do like normal. 5 times 6 is 30, so it's just a negative 30. So really, this is just telling me the sign. So negative times a negative, negative times a negative, if I cover these up, they get a positive. So a positive 3 times 8 would be 24. a negative 6 times a positive 9. So I cover up my negative and my positive, and my answer would be negative. And then 6 times 9 is 54. And so once you start to get good at it, you start to realize that if they have different signs here, that means your answer is negative. If the sign's the same, you get a positive. So negative 35 divided by 7, it's a negative divided by a positive. Oh, look, negative divided by a positive gets me a negative. It shows you also in the top. And so you would get negative 5 because 35 divided by 7 is 5. 28 divided by 4 is 7. And then a positive divided by a negative is a negative. And then down here, negative 9, and if you remember that fraction bar means to divide. So that really helps you to, it's something that we've already done before, which is fraction to decimal. When you turn a fraction into a decimal, you have to divide. So if you remember, it kind of makes it, I think of it as like a division symbol, kind of looks like two numbers in the line for a fraction. That's just me though. 9 divided by 3 is 3, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, so that's it. That's all that we're doing today. The big thing here is the practice. The practice is the most important part of all of this because practice, practice, practice. Math is one of those things that you are not bad at math. You just might need a little bit of extra practice. You are not bad at math. Nobody is bad at math. We just need to practice more. Math is one of those awesome things that the more you practice, the better you get. Just kidding. That's most stuff. Most stuff, the more you practice, the better you get. Sports, the more you practice, the better you get. Music, the more you practice, the better you get. Okay? Take it from somebody who quit playing guitar because I wasn't an expert at the very beginning. Okay? So that's not how it works. You have to practice. Your code for today is going to be listed at the very bottom of today's lesson, like always. And I will just tell you now, it's UNC. UNC. Okay? And it is just a bunch of practice about not fractions. It's just a bunch of practice about integers, all about integers, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So you've got this. If you need help, always feel free to come to tutoring at 1 o'clock. I will be there on a Zoom by myself until you get there.